The FIFA soap opera keeps unfolding. Today, the Swiss Attorney General Office announced that Sepp Blatter, the president of this organization, will be facing criminal investigation under suspicion of criminal mismanagement and misappropriation of FIFA funds. Nick, now we've been covering the FIFA disaster for long. Both we're very interested in the sport. Finally, we see there's a path for this guy to face some of the many crimes that he has committed under the umbrella of a non-profit organization.
If they can prove it. I mean, I'm sure it's going to get extremely complicated, right? And if you bring him down, you're going to have to bring a lot of people down with them. But at the same time, though, a lot of people in Africa, for example, love Sepp Blatter because he did a lot for the game in Africa as far as development goes. So, again, it's not so black and white. It is extremely complicated. I have a feeling that the last president, the president before him, the one before him, were all corrupt as well. And I'm starting to think that's just the MO. That's FIFA's MO. That's just the way it goes. It became the norm. And now, if we want really, to do some sweeping reform, we're going to have to start like this, and it's going to take a very long time, perhaps years.
Like you said, many argue that the structure of FIFA is rigged for this to happen, the way that small countries have the same weight in the voting mechanisms that the big countries. Say Guadalupe, a small island of very few players, actually have the same power of voting that the US or Germany or Argentina with hundreds and hundreds of very top players. Now, this is what happened. The Swiss Attorney General Office actually interrogated Blatter after a meeting of FIFA's executive committee in Zurich. And at the heart of this is two contracts for the TV rights of the two last World Cups to the Caribbean Football Union. There is this guy, Jack Warner. Jack Warner is a very important figure because he is one of the accused by the Department of Justice about the many, many crimes of corruption and, upselling of tickets. We knew that the vice president, the second award, he was just fired last week, Balki. Now, Blatter sold the rights to these two World Cups for $600,000. And then Jack Warner resold that for a profit of $11 million. And then, obviously, this was in no interest to FIFA, but Jack Warner was one of the main men in the re-election of Sepp Blatter. So he owes him a lot of favors. Now he's expecting extradition in Trinidad. And we'll see if he is brought to justice. Loretta Lynch came out and said, we will bring charges and we will indict not only companies, but also organizations and individuals. We'll see.
There is so much rampant corruption going on in soccer because we're talking about a global game. We're not talking about the NBA or the NFL with one league and a few people to put the blame on. We're talking about something that's across the globe. Everybody plays soccer, okay? Now, the corruption, it can be pinned on the big guys, the Jack Warners, the Sepp Blatters. That's easy to do for obvious reasons, like this millions of dollars just going, we don't know where it goes. But it gets more specific than that. Now, what about match fixing, for example? Yeah. There's so many different reasons for these kinds of things. Players in poorer countries, like Malaysia, for example, there's a big problem with match fixing there in their leagues because a lot of these leagues literally don't have the money to pay their players, and that's how their players make the money. So it comes down not to just corrupt officials, lack of money, and 100 different reasons. So, like I said, this is totally what I think. Well, this isn't going to solve anything.
I agree with you.
This is going to be a long
time. I'm going to raise it because, like you mentioned the lowest tier of football players. What about the top tier of football players? Right. We see the top stars of the world, Lionel Messi, in the middle of a big scandal about not paying taxes, and just today, the assets of Neymar were frozen in Brazil.
$50 million.
$50 million because of tax evasion. So we see that there's a systemic corruption, and the players grow into the system, and they, for them, they grow in seeing what is going around them. They say, well, I want a part of it. I don't have to pay taxes.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of taxation for these players, especially when you're a foreign players in the big leagues, but that's the law. And if you go and you choose to go play at that league, you pay the taxes that they ask you. But we keep seeing that they try to cut corners, and that is a big stain to the game, not only in the side of FIFA, but also with some players trying to cut corners. Let us know your opinion in the comments below, and if you haven't, please subscribe to the Lib TV 2.